Next on TCM, Brazil, then 12 Monkeys, and later, Time Bandits. Seize the moment with Terry Gilliam tonight.
Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for joining me on TCM as we begin an early birthday salute to one of the most inventive filmmakers of the last 50 years, Terry Gilliam, who will turn 85 next Saturday, November 22nd. Gilliam is the director behind many memorable and visually striking films, including The Fisher King, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Before Gilliam was a groundbreaking filmmaker, he was a founding member of the groundbreaking British comedy troupe Monty Python. Initially, Gilliam, the only American member of Monty Python, made the collage animation sequences that ran between sketches on the television show, Monty Python's Flying Circus. But he eventually became a performer, first on the show, then in the feature films the troupe began making in the 1970s. Those films marked Gilliam's start as a feature film director, too. First with Monty Python and the Holy Grail in 1975, which Gilliam co-directed with fellow Python Terry Jones, and then with solo efforts like the fantasy film Time Bandits from 1981. The surprise success of Time Bandits gave Gilliam the clout to make our first film today, which was a dream project for him. Released by Universal in 1985, Jonathan Pryce, Robert De Niro, Katherine Hellman, Ian Holm, and Bob Hoskins star in Brazil. The year 1985 matters here, 1 year after 1984. You perhaps knew that. If you were around then, you'll recall a great deal of talk about the significance of George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984, published all the way back in 1949. Since we had made it to 1984 as a reasonably functioning society, there was a tendency to examine the state of the world compared to Orwell's dark vision. Gilliam was among those interpreting life through that Orwellian prism, and he wanted to tell his own dystopian story in a post-1984 world. Since he's a legendarily clever comedian, at one point Gilliam wanted to call it 1984 and a half. But then came a British film version in 1984, so Gilliam decided to call his movie Brazil, named after the 1939 samba written by R.A. Barroso. As you'll soon hear, the song is all over the film with a version performed by Kate Bush. As for the plot, Jonathan Pryce plays a government bureaucrat who dreams of having a more adventurous and romantic life, a dream that becomes a reality when his world is turned upside down by a bug in the system, quite literally. Here it is, named by the Los Angeles Film Critics Association as the best film of 1985. This is Terry Gilliam's original theatrical cut of Brazil. Brazil earned the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Award for Best Picture in 1985. Critics also gave it the award for Best Screenplay and named Terry Gilliam Best Director. Not a bad haul for a film that had yet to be released. It wasn't even supposed to have been screened for those critics. They got to see it because Terry Gilliam needed some leverage against Universal Pictures, which held distribution rights in the United States. Fox released Gilliam's original cut of the film in Europe, but executives at Universal thought that version was too downbeat for American audiences, so without Terry Gilliam's knowledge, certainly without his consent, they re-edited the film to give it a happier ending. When Gilliam learned of this, he took out a full-page ad in one of the Hollywood trades asking Universal studio boss Sid Sheinberg, "When are you going to release my film, Brazil?" That did not move the needle. It merely irritated Sid Sheinberg, who doubled down on not releasing it as Gilliam wanted. So Gilliam then arranged screenings of his cut of Brazil for the LA critics, who loved it so much they looked at their bylaws and realized that a film did not have to have been released to qualify for one of their awards. When those awards were announced, then the needle moved. Universal had no choice but to release the film so people could see what the LA critics had swooned over. Coming up, more of our salute to director Terry Gilliam with another dystopian tale, this one a time-traveling story starring Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt. The TCM premiere of 12 Monkeys is next. Stay with us.
Next on TCM, 12 Monkeys, then Time Bandits, and later, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We're on a quest for more Terry Gilliam tonight.
Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for watching TCM and tonight's lineup of movies directed by Terry Gilliam, a bold and innovative filmmaker who will be celebrating his 85th birthday next Saturday. The director, Peter Bogdanovich, who was a good friend to TCM and to me, was a film journalist before becoming a director. Peter's best-known book from that time is a compilation of his conversations with some of classic cinema's best directors, called Who the Devil Made It. That's a line from the filmmaker Howard Hawks, who believed a director should leave his mark on a film. That when you see a movie, you ought to know just from the experience of watching it who the devil made it. Well, when you see a Terry Gilliam film, you definitely know who the devil made it. With Gilliam's history as a collage animator and founding member of the absurdist sketch comedy troupe Monty Python, it's no surprise that Gilliam is one of the most stylistic and inventive filmmakers of his generation. Much of his filmography has come from his original ideas. Up next, though, a film where producers specifically sought out Gilliam to direct because of his ability to tell complex and imaginative stories. From Universal, 1995, 12 Monkeys. It's a loose remake of the landmark French sci-fi film La Jetée, written and directed by Chris Marker. That film, just 28 minutes long, is primarily made up of still photographs and narration. It's the story of a man who lives in a post-nuclear apocalyptic world as he's sent back and forth through time searching for a way to save the world. Executive producer Robert Kosberg, a big fan of La Jetée, wanted to make a feature-length adaptation, so he approached the married writing team of David and Janet Peoples. Right away, they recognized a problem. The world had already been introduced to James Cameron's blockbuster sci-fi franchise, The Terminator, so the idea of telling another time-traveling story about nuclear Armageddon seemed like a recipe for an unfavorable comparison. They needed another world-ending problem to solve, so they came up with a preposterous idea, a worldwide pandemic caused by a mysterious virus. I mean, can you even imagine? The script they wrote is a non-linear, time-hopping detective story, so a perfect match for Terry Gilliam's skill set. At one point, Gilliam and his producers wanted the tandem of Jeff Bridges and Nick Nolte to lead the cast. When they fell through, Gilliam turned to two other actors. First, Bruce Willis at his peak in Hollywood. Second, an up-and-coming, marginally handsome actor on the cusp of stardom, William Bradley Pitt, who was looking for a role that would challenge him. When Brad Pitt was cast, Interview with a Vampire, Legends of the Fall, and Seven had yet to come out, but by the time 12 Monkeys hit theaters, all of them had, and Brad Pitt was a major Hollywood star. He earned his first Academy Award nomination for his work here. From 1995, also with Christopher Plummer and Madeline Stowe, 12 Monkeys. When producer Robert Kosberg had the idea to remake the French film La Jetée, he had a big obstacle ahead of him, getting permission from the man who wrote and directed that 28-minute film, Chris Marker. Marker had no interest in working with Hollywood in any capacity, let alone a remake of his film. To make matters worse, when Universal Studio execs first approached Marker about acquiring the rights, they brought along a 20-page contract for him to review. That was a mistake. The only thing Marker disliked more than Hollywood was Hollywood lawyers. Said he wouldn't even consider a deal unless they got the agreement down to 2 pages. Even then, he still was not inclined to sign it. So the studio arranged a dinner with a filmmaker Marker admired, and more importantly, a filmmaker he trusted, Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola knew just what to do. He waited until midway through the meal to say, these men who want to make this movie, they're good people. You should let them do it. That was good enough for Marker. He said, okay. He was then presented with a 2.5-page rights agreement. Close enough. The deal was done. Up next, our 85th birthday salute to director Terry Gilliam continues with another time-hopping story. This is Gilliam's breakthrough as a director, Time Bandits. It's next on TCM.
Next on TCM, Time Bandits, then Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and later, Monty Python's Life of Brian. Always look on the bright side of TCM tonight.
Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for checking out TCM as we continue with tonight's lineup of movies made by a wildly imaginative director, Terry Gilliam, who will celebrate his 85th birthday next Saturday, a week from tomorrow. That's next Saturday, right? Saturday is just tomorrow. But on Sunday, is last Saturday yesterday or 8 days ago? Terry Gilliam's birthday is November 22nd. To millions of people, Gilliam is best known as a founding member of the British sketch comedy troupe Monty Python, and Gilliam's early film directing career revolved around Python and its members. Apart from a short he made in 1968, his first directing credit was for co-directing Monty Python and the Holy Grail with fellow Python member Terry Jones in 1975. Gilliam's first solo directing project came with the 1977 fantasy film Jabberwocky, which featured Jones and fellow Python member Michael Palin in the cast. That brings us to Gilliam's third feature film, the movie we have next, produced by Handmade Films, a production company co-founded by Beatles alum George Harrison. From 1981, co-written by Gilliam and Michael Palin, who stars alongside another Python member, John Cleese, this is Time Bandits. After finishing Jabberwocky, Terry Gilliam initially wanted to make his dream project, which eventually became the dystopian fantasy Brazil. But he had a hard time getting producers behind that project, so Gilliam shelved the idea and focused on making a family film. He came up with the idea of a young boy who discovers that his bedroom is a portal that allows people to travel through time. One night, the kid wakes up to a horse-mounted knight bursting through his wardrobe before disappearing into the forest, where the kid's bedroom wall used to be. The next night, 6 more visitors, this time with a map to some of the biggest treasures in history, which they, of course, want to get their hands on. Eventually, the boy is crossing paths with ancient Greeks, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Robin Hood. Like all of Terry Gilliam's films, Time Bandits is propulsive and visually inventive, an impressive achievement considering Gilliam made the movie for just a little more than $5 million, a small budget for an adventure film like this, even 44 years ago. Here it is from 1981 with Gilliam's Python colleagues John Cleese and Michael Palin, plus Shelley Duvall, Ian Holm, Katherine Helmond, and Sean Connery. Time Bandits. Terry Gilliam and his Time Bandits co-writer Michael Palin, who was also in the film, had high hopes for how they'd cast Agamemnon, and they even wrote it into their script. When Agamemnon first appeared in the screenplay, it read, "The Greek warrior pulls his helmet off, revealing himself to be none other than Sean Connery, or an actor of equal but cheaper stature." Turns out Sean Connery was a Monty Python fan, so he was willing to do it, and for a fraction of his usual asking price, which would have been like half the film's budget. Instead, Connery took a percentage of the profits, which turned out to be sizable. Connery was also helpful to Gilliam on set. Gilliam was still rather inexperienced as a director, so he showed up the first day with a stack of detailed storyboards and just a few days to get all the location shooting done in Morocco. Things pretty quickly went off the rails, especially due to the inexperience of Craig Warnock, the young actor playing Kevin. Connery then suggested that Gilliam throw out his storyboards and instead get all of Connery's stuff first in quick, easy setups. Then he could spend the rest of his time focusing on getting the performance he needed out of his child actor. Gilliam took that advice, and it kept the shoot on schedule. Coming up, Terry Gilliam's first feature film directing credit takes us on a trip to King Arthur's court. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is next on Turner Classic Movies.